Alright, so the time has come for the new generation of blade reviewers. Um, I'm kind of tired of seeing all these same veteran knife reviewer faces, and it's kind of funny how there isn't a single one Gen Z knife reviewer. So let's just see something new here. Today we're testing out several blades. Mainly we've got Kershaw Camp-10, tried and tested, a 65 manganese steel. Then we've got something interesting. We've got EFENGROW EF-142 and DC-53 steel, which is an interesting option. I have not seen much on that stuff yet, so we'll see. And then the most tried and tested Becker BK9 in 1095 Crovan steel. All of these blades have my hand sharpened edges and more or less the same sharpness levels. Granted, there's going to be a bit of a difference because of the initial factory grind, but you get the point. We're going to start with a test that I personally haven't seen before, and that's a velocity test. Yes, you heard right, a velocity test in a knife review. I'm going to hit a green flexible branch, basically as hard as I can, to try and slice it off with the best possible edge alignment that I can achieve. And so we'll see how well it does, how well the knives do as machetes, basically. To pass this test, a blade will need a certain speed to actually cut the branch instead of it flexing away. So we'll see. Let's check it out. All right, so this is some semi-soft vegetation. It's more soft than it is hard. And we're going to be starting with this Cleaver DC-53 steel EF-143 that I've kind of customized. So it kind of gets an advantage, but at the end of the day, these are all easy fucking mods. You know, the lanyard and rounding on the handle. And caveat here is I'm not using any gloves, specifically to see which one is more comfortable. So let's check. I mean, my guess is that it's just going to fucking flex. And I've already hit it with another knife to test, and yeah, it just flexes, basically. It's not possible to chop it with this weight, okay? BK9. It's a 9 and something inch blade, so let's check it out. Did I even hit it? I think I did. Fuck. Well, let's try again. I'm going to be aiming lower now. It still fucking flexes. Maybe it is my edge alignment, but I don't think so. I really don't fucking think so. See? But it is comfortable. That's something to mention. And this shit still flexes. So, next up in blade length is the Kershaw Camp-10. I'm going to interrupt myself here to say that, just like the others, it failed, so none of these blades would be a great substitute to a machete, though I would have to say that Becker BK9 definitely felt like it had the most chances. Just due to the weight and balance, it was definitely the most nimble out of all of them with the blade length. You know, proportionate to the blade length, it was definitely the fastest. Now, EF-142 was just lacking in blade length, and it was just a little bit too thick, whereas Camp-10 was long enough, but was way too heavy. So I will be reviewing an actual machete, so stay tuned. But next you can just see me bring out the Raptor machete for fun. It's sort of a wild card for me. It was about 12 inches of crap 3CR steel. And it's hard to call this thing a machete with its thickness, but I finally managed to break off this branch, this poor fucking branch with it. Might took some effort, but it did work. I'm putting gauges here, but there's nothing, you know, substantial. It just flexes way too much. This last hit, you can see what it did. This is really fucking green. So that's what I'm talking about now. And there it goes. Next up, we'll be doing a throwing test along with a chopping test on an oak tree to see how good these different blades are at chopping and how well do they stand up to throwing, which I will miss a couple throws just on purpose to see if it does anything to the overall construction of the knife. If the handles come loose or get damaged, we'll see that there. And for a test, I threw this cheap garbage 7CR Timberwolf knife from BLOCKY, as you can see. And yeah, the results speak for themselves. First, let's see. Let's try to figure out the balance on this one. Okay, there we go.
I don't know how to throw this way, so it's probably gonna hit with the handle, and that's what I want to do. I'm gonna step the far out and like a fucking caveman would throw a stone, yeah? Okay, now we're seeing it. A couple throws, and you see that? Yeah, that's what happens. And I'm not surprised at all. Simply, heat treating is failed, so the tip is bent. Now, you can still throw this, but if you do any lateral stuff with it, it's gonna bend. And even without that, if you just throw it, it's gonna bend eventually if you just throw it the wrong way. Throwing this is a very heavy blade, and this handle, there's a hole in here, so kind of sketchy, right? Because this tang here, there's a screw hole and there's this hole here, so, and it's a very narrow part, but we'll still check to be fair. Okay, there we go. Nice. This throws really fucking nicely. As you can see, no tip rolling, nothing. The edge is fine, obviously. The tip is still very sharp. The only thing is I hit another knife, and that's where this, I don't know if I hit the edge or what, but it seems to be cut. So I'm not surprised in that. I'm just gonna burn that. It's gonna be fine. Now fuck. Now, let's see. Go to the Becker BK9. I've already thrown this a little bit, but I'm still gonna throw it just for the purpose of test. So one more time without anything. Need to nail it here real quick. Oh fuck. Okay, there we go. Okay, now this is where this knife really fucking excels. It's built kind of like a combat knife / survival knife. So that's great. Let's keep going, because I like throwing this thing. It has a lot of mass, and it goes really fucking deep. About here, maybe even a bit deeper. Yeah, okay. This can throw for sure. Yeah, it just whipped me. But hell yeah. This knife has about the same mass almost as Becker BK9 because of how thick it is and how overbuilt it is. Can do it. It just wants to stick. I can't do anything about it. Let me just throw it sideways, I don't know. Come on. Okay, well, you get the point. I'm not gonna bother throwing this thing. There's nothing that could happen to this blade from throwing. It's a beast. Now,
time for the chopping test, after which I will give you the summary of things, as well as my conclusion. We are doing 10 rings for each blade, and remember this is pretty hard oak. And also do keep in mind that for EF-142 I am using a lanyard, and I did modify the basic K-bar handle with some traction cuts on that plastic, which makes it perfect. And yeah, the EAFENGROW actually does have some modifications to the handle as well. Let me know if you want to see a video of any kind on those things.
This is the Kukri, this is K-bar. In terms of depth, you can see Kukri is a bit deeper probably. And to be honest, shock absorption on that resin handle is pretty good. So in chopping, Kukri wins. Now on this note, this has this beak because it's a counter blade, and this is just happens to be the sweet spot for chopping as well, by the point of balance. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And there was one miss swing. Let's do one more. Now, of course, it's not as deep as these or big, but it's a perfectly doable thing.
Right, so we've got all three of them here, but we'll start with the EAFENGROW EF-142. First up, we did velocity test / machete test, and 10 out of 10 would be something like a Tramontina machete or any other dedicated tool for clearing grass and brushing trails. 2 out of 10 is what it scored because of its weight and balance. I don't think there's a need to explain why. Second, throwing test, 8.5 out of 10, where 10 would be a dedicated professional throwing spike. It did very well. It did not loosen up. Tip held up perfectly, and I threw it a lot because I liked it. So, good at that. Chopping test, we got 4.5, where 10 out of 10 would be something like a hatchet or an axe. I think 4.5 is deserved. It's decent. It's not the greatest for that, but it definitely works, especially with a linear. Now, fine work. I did not test it in the video, but if you want to know, I would get about 7 out of 10. It's not the most ergonomic for that. I'll get into the details later. Speaking of which, ergonomically, we have 5.5 out of 10 out of the box because it was very blocky, especially for my hands. I wear small sized mechanics gloves. They're a bit tight on me, but I do wear small size ones. And so it really did not feel well in my hands without any modifications. Then I rounded off the handles and it felt perfect. You can just do it with the utility knife where you just peel off the G10 on the corners or with sandpaper, obviously. Materials, G10, DC53, KYDEX. Great tackle KYDEX sheath. I don't think it gets any better than that. But yeah, great materials. Price-wise, 8 out of 10 on base price, which is 63, I believe, with a coupon. Or if you can find it on on sale, no pun intended, you can get it for 9.5 out of 10, which is like 47 bucks, which is what I got it for. Notes are the finger choil. I don't know why they did such a silly, huge finger choil, and that's why it's not great at fine work. It just does not sit well with me with my hand size. I have to choke up, and it works certainly, but yeah, not the greatest. That and the blocky handles, otherwise a great knife. Alright, so moving on to the Kershaw Camp-10. In the machete test, it scored 5.5 because just its thickness pretty much and the balance. Everything's just going to flex away from you if you're trying to use it like a machete. So you'll have to hold down things before you actually swing, which is not the safest practice, but that's what you have to do with basically every blade in this test, unfortunately. But in comparison, 5.5. Throwing test, we have 6 out of 10 just because of the curves in the handle and the blade. It is not well suited for throwing, but it is fun. Throwing it is a lot of fun because it's very heavy. Chopping test, 8 out of 10 because that's the strong suit of this knife. It is very good at chopping, and yeah, it is not far from a hatchet. Now, fine work, if you're doing any fine work with this, you're just going through hell, unless you have a stump into which you can just stick it, or if you throw it into a tree, then I guess you could try, but 2.5 out of 10. Ergonomically, 8 out of 10, but you have to understand that this handle is really suited for chopping. It is designed to chop. It's not going to do well in other things because of the guard and just the angle and everything. So 8 out of 10, still a great handle. Materials, we've got rubber handle. Note here, it did get caught when I threw it, so it's not the most durable and might also create blisters if you're not using gloves and you're chopping for a long time. But also it does provide a lot of grip. So I'd like to mention steel, 65 manganese steel, and yeah, it's good, but it's not as good as 1095 Crowan and the test was, or BC53, nowhere close. It's decent, but yeah, plastic sheath. Definitely something to note. If you cut that strap on the sheath, it's complete garbage. It's unusable. Price, 9 out of 10. It's about 60 bucks, 50, 60 bucks. So that's great. And that's it. A very good bang for your buck. And just note that steel is, it performs, it's okay, but it's not the greatest. And the handle is not the most durable. Alright, so moving on to the Becker BK9. And then we will conclude the video. Machete test, we have 6.5 out of 10. It almost felt like it was about just to cut that branch, but it still flexed away. So 6.5. Throwing test, 8.5. It is the same exact weight almost as EF-142. It threw just as well, but it does require a little bit more of adaptation because of the handle shape and length of the blade, but still 7.5. Fine work, it is definitely built to accommodate for fine work as well, but the main sword is chopping here. So 4.5 for fine work. For a large knife, very good, but 4.5. Ergonomically, we've got 9 out of 10. It is, again, still mostly for chopping, but you can do everything with it, pretty much. So 9 out of 10. Materials, plastic, handles, and not the best. Could have done much better, but steel, we have 1095 Crovan, which is great. You probably cannot see it in the video, but it performed basically just as well as DC-53 here in terms of edge retention and impact resistance, which is impressive, I have to say. It is not quite as rust resistant as DC-53, but still very, very decent. Nylon sheath, which was definitely better than Camp-10's sheath. The straps on the sheath are not as in the way of sheathing, so it works, but it would have been great to have something else. Price, 5 out of 10. Of course, it's not going to be priced competitively with Chinese-made knives, but, you know, for what you're getting, a USA-made knife and USA-designed knife and a great design, it's okay. 5 out of 10. Note is that we have misaligned handles here, so in that regard, not the greatest. You have to screw them out and then align them and then screw them back, which is not a great deal. So the other thing is we do have to add some traction to the handle out of the box because it is not the most grippy. You can just do what I did and just grab a utility knife blade and do a cross pattern on the handles and you're going to be golden. Or you can just wrap it in grip tape, sandpaper, whatever. The conclusion here. So the conclusion is EF-142 is a great sort of a survival knife. It is not as good for chopping. It is great at batoning, but it's not good for chopping. And so I would recommend that you get this if you just want the best bang for your buck in terms of materials and performance, but not chop oriented. Note is that the choil on the EF-142 is just way too large, like I mentioned, and the handles from the factory are way too blocky. Kershaw Camp-10 is the best bang for your buck when it comes to a huge chopper. If you do not want just a survival knife but a huge chopper, definitely go for the Camp-10. You're not going to be doing any fine work with it, but for chopping, it is great. I would imagine for batoning as well. Becker BK9. If you want to pay for the design features, which are definitely great, and for its weight, I don't think there's anything competitive with this. Just like I don't think that there's anything competitive with the Camp-10 really, at least not, branded stuff. The Becker BK9 is just legendary, and so you are looking for that knife to do the most for its weight, definitely go for the Becker BK9. Very versatile. The only note is that you have misaligned handles and it needs some traction to be added to them, and also the materials overall are not the greatest. They've been a tear up from plastic and just nylon.
That's one. And that's two. EAFENGROW EF-142, and this is Becker BK9. Well, fuck, where do I throw this? There we go. Oh, that's fun. I'm not gonna take that out. Oh yeah.